So, what's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear Cleveland? Maybe it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Or that giant free stamp sculpture. But beyond all the well known spots, there's a whole other side to the city, a much darker side. So, today, we're going to take a tour of this unseen Cleveland, a city packed with ghosts, unbelievable disasters, and real life monsters that have shaped its story in ways you'd never expect. All right, so we've got four main stops on this, let's call it a dark tour. We're going to kick things off with some of the city's most haunted places. Then we'll look at massive disasters that literally shook Cleveland to its foundations. After that, we dive into the terrifying story of a real-life monster who hunted on its streets. And we'll wrap it all up with the strange creatures and weird lights that are part of the local folklore. Okay, first up, let's go to the places where the past just refuses to die. We're starting our tour with Cleveland's most infamous haunted spots, and we're kicking it off with a mansion that many people say is the single most haunted house in the entire state of Ohio. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's just one tragedy after another. The Tiedemann family who built this place, Franklin Castle, they suffered an incredible amount of loss in just a little over 10 years. Their teenage daughter, the grandmother, 3 more of their kids, and then finally the mother, Louise. It's no wonder this place has a reputation. That much grief, all in one home, that's the stuff ghost stories are made of. And with a backstory like that, you can bet the paranormal claims are off the charts. We're talking sightings of a woman in black roaming the halls, the sounds of a baby crying out of nowhere, and get this, in the 1970s, they found a literal human skeleton tucked away in a hidden closet. Throw in some rumors about secret tunnels for bootlegging or even assassinations, and well, you've got the perfect recipe for a full-blown legendary haunting. And what's so wild is how one single building can have totally different kinds of hauntings going on at the same time. Take the Grays Armory. On the one hand, people report seeing these spectral soldiers, still in their 19th century gear, like they're still on guard duty. But then you also have this elegant lady in white who's always spotted near the piano, no matter which room they move it to. And it's not just a couple of spooky old buildings. Oh no, these stories are all over downtown Cleveland. You've got these ghostly pranksters at the Renaissance Hotel flicking lights and flushing toilets. There's the spirit of Chief Jocko Sot in the Erie Street Cemetery, who's supposedly so angry his own tombstone cracked. And then there's the tragic ghost of Matilda, a 1920s flapper who, after losing everything in the 1929 stock market crash, is said to still walk the halls of the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now. We're moving away from the supernatural and into stuff that was terrifyingly real. Our second stop is all about disasters that were so huge, the entire city felt the impact. And what's crazy is how some of them started with the absolute best of intentions. Get this number in your head, 1.5 million. That is how many balloons the United Way of Cleveland let go into the sky back on September 27, 1986. It was supposed to be this huge, beautiful spectacle, a charity event to set a new world record. Well, it set a record, all right? But this is where the whole thing just goes horribly wrong. A storm blew in and pushed all those balloons back down, covering Lake Erie. At the same time, the Coast Guard was out there looking for 2 missing fishermen. Their search helicopter couldn't see anything. It was just a sea of latex. The number of fishermen they later found washed ashore was 2. Decades before that, though, Cleveland saw a totally different kind of disaster. Not balloons, but fire. And the way people who were there described it, chilling. They called it a tidal wave of fire. So how does something like that even happen? Well, it was like the worst possible domino effect. A storage tank at the East Ohio Gas Company started leaking. That flammable vapor got into the sewer system. And when it finally ignited, bam! It caused a massive chain reaction, blowing manhole covers sky high and shooting fires straight out of the drains. Then, a second tank exploded, making it all so much worse. The human cost was just catastrophic. We're talking 130 people dead. Almost 80 homes were completely wiped out, leaving 600 people with absolutely nothing. It was so horrific, it literally changed the entire natural gas industry across the country, forcing companies to start storing gas in much safer underground facilities. All right, take a deep breath, because this next part of our tour, it's the darkest yet. We're not talking about ghosts or accidents anymore. We're talking about the calculated evil of a human predator. This is about Cleveland's most infamous serial killer, a monster who haunted the city and was never, ever caught. It's a question that has literally haunted the city for generations. Imagine this. It's the Great Depression, people are already struggling, and then this starts happening. A killer with what seem to be surgical skills starts leaving dismembered bodies all over a rundown area called Kingsbury Run. The city was gripped by fear, and the killer became this phantom known only as the Mad Butcher. So what makes this case one of the most famous cold cases in American history? Well, a few things. The killer was active for about 3 years, claiming at least 12 victims. Most of them were transients, people who were already on the margins, which made them hard to identify. But the signature was always the same: incredibly precise decapitation and dismemberment, which made everyone think the killer had to have some kind of medical training. And even with the famous lawman Elliot Ness on the case, it's still unsolved. And here's the really disturbing part. The torso murderer, he wasn't the last. Tragically, Cleveland has seen this type of evil again. In the 2000s, there was Anthony Sowell, known as the Cleveland Strangler, who murdered 11 women. Then, just a few years after that, Michael Madison, a man who was reportedly obsessed with Sowell, killed 3 more. It's like this dark, awful pattern that repeats in the city's history. Okay, for our last stop, we're taking a turn into the truly weird. We're leaving behind documented history and diving straight into the world of folklore, monsters, and UFOs. We're talking about the strange legends that come from the local forests and the bizarre things people have seen in the skies. Now, this might seem a little random, but stick with me. We're going to start with a medical definition: hydrocephalus. It's a very real and very tragic medical condition that causes a person's head to become enlarged from fluid buildup on the brain. And the reason we're starting here is because this real-world condition is the seed for one of the region's most terrifying urban legends. And that brings us to the legend of the Melon Heads. Now, the story goes that there is this cruel scientist, Dr. Crow, who ran an orphanage for kids with hydrocephalus. He performed all these twisted experiments on them until, one day, they fought back. They killed the doctor, burned the place to the ground, and escaped into the woods. And they say they're still out there, living as a feral clan that only comes out at night. So you've got these strange stories coming from the woods. But it turns out people in Cleveland have been seeing weird stuff in the skies for decades too. This is a long-running thing. Back in 1958, you had 21 different people report a strange object. Then there was a really famous incident in 1973 where an Army helicopter crew had a terrifyingly close encounter with a cigar-shaped craft. It just goes on, from photos of flying saucers to modern-day reports of strange lights over the city. So what's the takeaway from all of this? What does it all mean? I think it shows that a city's soul isn't just made up of its proud moments and its shiny landmarks. It's also the sum of its ghost stories, its worst tragedies, its darkest crimes, and its weirdest legends. All of these dark histories are part of Cleveland's DNA, and they create this complex, fascinating identity that's so much deeper than what you just see on the surface.